Hello and welcome to a brand new edition of the Triple Trio, our weekly look at all things Hong Kong racing. Clint Hutchison's the best form analyst in the business, and the other guy is in the Hall of Fame because he was a superstar jockey in Raymond Shane Dye, the Golden Boy. Hello, Hutch.
Hey, Richo. I'm really excited about this weekend, Hong Kong. Some of the big names are stepping back out onto the scene, so great race, the Sha Tin Trophy. That's the feature. We'll look at that. We've had a big week.
We certainly have, and we'll reflect on that in a moment. Golden Boy, lots to be excited about this week.
Good horses in Australia and Hong Kong returning, and it's fantastic racing at present. This is the best time. The good horses are coming back.
A real high-quality Group 2 mile coming up too on Sunday.
Yeah, the Sha Tin Trophy. It's a fantastic race. Voyage Bubble, the headline act, but Beauty Eternal in there. Plenty to dissect in that race.
And a lot happened last week. Check it out.
I've got a couple trialling tonight. Swift Descent will be, one of my first runners, and I think it's going really well. So fingers crossed.
Is a first win in Hong Kong for David Eustace, and Swift Ascend is 1 and 1 well. With a wing on every hoof, he's well and truly gone off in front here, and it is Super Unicorn. The 1.4 favourite is going to absolutely hack up. With 100 to go, it's going to be a race-to-race double for Purton, and look at Aurora Lady go. They queue up for the minors, but Aurora Lady is one. But it is Chateau Neuf who's made the lead from Scotch Tycoon, and the favourite's going to win the last. Chateau Neuf from Scotch Tycoon.
Well, there's a lot to celebrate. Dave Eustace, congratulations to you. The first of many.
First of many. He's hit the ground running, that's no doubt. I know he's only had 6 horses run, but Shane, he's taken some horses off some leading stables. They've performed well. 1 winner and 3 place getters from just a handful of runners. He's starting about things the right way.
Oh, definitely. All of his horses have improved that have raced from previous trainers, which is a very, very good sign. He started very well, so let's just hope he can continue it now.
I've got a theory in life that form is temporary and class is permanent, and you are classy, my man, because when we look at the replay and results of HUTCHI'S Honkers, the form, well, it was temporary on Sunday, and then the class was permanent on Wednesday night.
I think it's a good just highlight, how you got to play the long game a little bit. You can have a bad day at the office, which we certainly did on Sunday at Sha Tin, a couple of seconds, photos, etc. That's the way racing is. Didn't go away, but we were a bit off the mark, and then we saw them pretty well on Wednesday. I like a number of shorties probably home, but yeah, I mean, that's the week there was. Unfortunately, at the end of the week, things were up, but it was a topsy-turvy week.
And we've got a special treat for you in today's edition, and that is our star power guest is the one and only Hugh Bowman, who's had a great start to the Hong Kong season. So he'll be our star guest, and of course, all the normal form features as well. Let's get stuck into finding some winners on Sunday. Let's analyse some key races, Hutch, and we'll start with race number 7. Really keen to see the return of some stars here.
Gee, this race was not easy to price, but my early rated price, and I may adjust this depending on the day, but I've got Galaxy Patch 340, Beauty Eternal 450, Voyage Bubble Tricky Barrier, got him at third elect at 6.7. In Chan Cheng Glory under the handicap conditions, he has to be respected. I got him around $8. And of course, Shane, this was a race they met last season. Tempo definitely suited Chan Cheng and Happy Together to a point. What it allowed them to do by going so slow was allow Galaxy Patch close enough to reel off this incredible section. I think from the barrier on the weekend, he gets a great chance. He doesn't need to go all the way back. It's a bit like Golden 60s in the old days. If Vinny can just be on the back of the speed, I think he's got a great chance.
He has. He's very promising. He did everything right last year, whether it was 1,200 metres or 2,000, he adapted. He's had 4 trials, Galaxy Patch, I think, this time, and hasn't been pushed in any of them, just given easy trials. He looks good. I've got him on top, and he's going to be very, very hard to beat. I'm looking at the top ones more so than the bottom ones, even though there's that big weight advantage, Clint, where you normally favour the bottom ones.
Well, this is the trial of the top weight, and that's Voyage Bubble. This is a great piece of work. Ricky, you said, I think he's not worried about the weight with this horse. Look, this is a horse that has been beaten a neck by Romantic Warrior. Happy Together, he had a fantastic season last season. He won't be far away. Like the trial there, Shane?
was a good trial. I think Happy Together meets him 6 pounds better on that run last year when he just beat him. Here's the other two in the race, Beauty Eternal.
Yep, and Galaxy Patch.
Galaxy Patch.
I think tactically this is very important for Vincent as well with Galaxy Patch. And from the point of view, like I said, you don't need to be dragging him all the way back in this race. Zach's going to jump. He's going to go park across to the fence on Beauty Eternal, try and do what he did at the end of last season as we look at Straight Aaron, who is now with Ricky Yu. He can go all right fresh mile. Not sure what his best distance is. But just back to Galaxy Patch, like I said, they always wanted to get him a little bit of cover so he would relax because he could be fierce in his races. But tactically, this is a race without a lot of speed. Zach will cross, lead, try and stack them up as he did at the end of last season. And that makes it tricky for Voyage Bubble. Chan Chen can work forward, however. But I don't want to see, Galaxy Patch really give away too much ground early. If he's on the back of Beauty Eternal, straightening in, Shane, I think he'll just go right on by him. And Beauty Eternal's got to be, given due respect because he's very consistent. And when he found the rail last year, he went a lot straighter. So I think tactically it's an interesting race.
Tactically, it really is. There's no doubt. Voyage Bubble can lead if they want from gate 9. Do
you think they will?
He's led before. No, I probably don't, but he could if he wanted to. It's a funny type of race because all the pace is out wide. And they're going to dictate to Zach whether he leads or not because Zach will go forward, clear the inside horses easy. And then it's just a matter of whether Voyage Bubble, what else, Ching Ching Glory want to press on and lead. And you've got Red Lion who races on the pace and he's got gate 8, though Huey doesn't like leading, he likes to take a sit. So what leads, I'm not so sure, but at the weights I would probably say Ching Ching Glory will push forward.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting race and great to see the return of some of the stars of Hong Kong racing.
Yep.
Group 2 race there and, of course, an eye to December as well. Let's move over to race number 9 here and we drop back to a Class 3 and it's over 1,400 metres.
Yeah, this looks a very good chance on the day. Fantastic return and an extremely consistent horse in Lucy in the Sky. Great run behind Wunderbar first up and as was First Love for that matter. So they've had the benefit of the run. Speed Dragon hasn't, but I liked his performances in the 4-year-old series last term. And Young Achiever on good ground, that's the key for him. He can run a bit of a race. But I thought, Shane, that Lucy in the Sky, he will be a little bit fitter. He'll get a good run again. And all that points towards him being very hard to beat behind a very progressive horse in Wunderbar.
Yeah, he's going to get the right run. He is going to be very hard to beat. He's got to go 1,400 for the first time, of course, Clint. And he looks as though he'll run it with the run he's going to get. I've actually got Speed Dragon on top. I thought last season, first up, he went enormous. And his trial the other day was good. He's in a Class 3 race. And if you look at his form, he was running in derbies and all the best horses all last season, more or less. I think he could sprint well fresh. So I've got him on top from Lucy in the Sky.
Yeah, it was a really good trial that you mentioned. Go to the Hong Kong Jockey Club website and check that out if you can. But the weight little worried me and the lack of a run. But he might have a class edge, like Shane said.
Yeah, so that's Speed Dragon, but also top selection for Hutchie. Number 5, Lucy in the Sky, and Hutchie's hoping to be wearing diamonds after it. 5-13.
I see what you did there.
And you can't write that stuff. Race number 10 is...
See, you get all that at no extra cost. Now, this is one of the best Class 3s I've seen in a long time. Some of the horses in this lineup are going to end up a lot higher in the ratings. I've got Wunderbar on top. And he really was blessed with the barrier. Zach here aboard Wunderbar will be fitter. Gate 1's a big plus. Bottom up together will work forward. He's got some good ratings. And, of course, Zach normally rides bottom up together, so it would have been a hard decision. And then there's Call Me Glorious. Look, I thought bottom up together was great here, Shane. He carried a lot of weight. He just peaked on his run. It probably anchored him late, and he was run over by Ruby Lot. But he's had the benefit of a run, and he now drops 8.5 kilos on this run. And Chadwick's not going to be hanging around, so he could easily win this race.
Yeah, he can. I've got Wunderbar on top from bottom up together and Call Me Glorious. Actually the same as you without even realising it. I don't like this race because it's such a good race. Anything can happen and there is a lot of pace in the race. I didn't think Wunderbar was overly impressive first up, but I know he's got the ability and he's a very good horse and it wouldn't be a surprise if he could if he wins and wins easy. But I don't know what to make of it, Clint. It's a race where you said a lot of horses are going to go higher, and I honestly believe that.
Yeah, it's interesting with Wunderbar because, last season, it was a light preparation for him, but he did show good improvement first to second run. So if he improves that same amount, and he too drops a lot in weight, he drops another 4 kilos or 4.5 kilos, he'll be a lot fitter because he had 200-something days off.
Yeah.
So, and the gate just allows him to get a soft run through that first 300 or 400. Now, here is Call Me Glorious. Shane, did you think they just, the 1,000 was sharp enough for him first up?
I thought he'd run a little bit better, but he didn't go bad. It wasn't an easy race, this, and it was his first run at 1,200. Maybe he's at 1,000 metres, I should say. Maybe he's better at the 12, but he's not going to get his own way on pace here. There's just too many that are going to be forward, and he's got that gate 9, which is a little bit awkward, but he's going to be forward in the run. He might squat in 4th or 5th probably. He's going to have to, isn't he?
Yeah.
But he's got the ability and he's definitely got a chance.
On the ratings, there's not much between a few of these. I think the best ride will win the race almost. So, and that said, people will look at the form with Wunderbar and say, well, he's got Ka Ying rising form, like he can go higher, but they all improve it at different rates. But the same case with a number of them. I think if Lyle gets a good spot from that barrier, because he to me seems a kind of horse that probably could take a sit behind a good speed. I could see him winning. It's a really good race, and there's a number in these like that are stakes level or 100 plus horses in Hong Kong, so it's an absolute ripper.
Should be a beauty.
I was actually looking for something back coming down the outside if the track's riding like that, but I couldn't find one. Everything I want to be on is in the first 4 or 5.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to work through that. And Wunderbar obviously was one of your selections and bottom up together. So a chance for redemption there for those that followed you in last time.
Yes, absolutely.
And Wunderbar, the one and only winner for the season for John Size. Very, very rare. So watch his stable get ready to fire. That was awesome. Don't forget, we've got our very best bets at the end of the program from these geniuses as well. A quick break. Our star power guest, the one and only Hugh Bowman.
Sky Song now bursting through. Sky Song has got his nose in front. Speedy Chariot at them late. Sky Song. Sky Song from Speedy Chariot. Noble Pursuit digging deep. Gets his nose in front. Starts to extend. And Noble Pursuit is home from I Can and Chain of Gold. Moving through now is Rocket Spade. Rocket Spade has surged to the lead here from Super Unicorn. Courier Magic. They've been waiting a long time for this. Rocket Spade. He's a Hong Kong maiden. No longer. It's another one for Bowman, and it's another one for Casper Found.
JHB is in the house. Huey Bowman in red-hot form, mate. Thanks for taking the time to join the show. Welcome.
Richo, thanks for having me on, and it's nice to be back blowing into the new season. And I noticed they're all Casper Found horses that we replayed there, but he started off really well, and it's been good to be part of the success.
That's right. 7 winners for Casper. Where did this association start? And tell us about the magic sauce that you two have got.
Well, I think his horses have just hit the ground running this season, and he's been one of my main supporters since I arrived here 2 years ago. But it's just it's great that his stable's going so well, and like I said, it's good to be the beneficiary of that success. And we're working well together, and we spent some time together in the off season actually, more by chance and by plan. But it was we had a good off season, and I'm not suggesting that that's helped the success rate. I think his stables just started off with really good form, and they're holding it too, so it's good.
Did you survive an off season with Cassie Barr? Oh wow!
Not the entire off season.
Hey, Hugh, you really hit the ground running last season, of course. I mean, and probably to a lesser extent the first few meetings this time in, but you seem to have gathered a lot of momentum in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's been a good start. I didn't come back to Hong Kong quite as fit as I did last year. I really took the time in the off-season to have a real break and give the body a break. So it did take sort of 2 to 3 weeks to find that fitness level that I'm accustomed to having, and with a bit of difficulty with my ear. I missed a meeting last Saturday, and that was a bit unfortunate. But that's I was just starting to get my weight back to my fighting weight, and that disrupted that process a little bit. So still trying to get that right. But yeah, we're pretty close. We're pretty close.
Yeah, it was.
Huey, I see you've got accustomed to Hong Kong. The maid behind you.
Yes,
Don't get one of those in Australia.
No, you don't. But yeah, she's a great member of the family, and she's been a great asset since we moved over here.
When I was walking into the studio last week, Hugh, Bruce McAvaney was here, and he asked, "Can Hugh beat Zach in the championship this year?" G's riding well, and I said, "It's going to be tough just at the weights, but you must still be. Have you got a target this year? I mean, you spent so much time on the sidelines last year with suspension and obviously injury. What sort of mark? I mean, have you got a mark that you want to hit?"
I do. I'd like to ride 100 winners. I mean, obviously, you guys know all about the media questions. They want to create rivalries at every step they can. And a common question is, can you beat Zach in the championship? Well, it's really not my focus. It's my focus is hopefully ride 100 winners. I think that's a real achievable goal for me. And if I can do that, what will be will be. So not so focused on trying to beat Zach as I am just trying to do the best I can with the opportunities I get. And those opportunities have been coming thick and fast, and I hopefully they continue to do so. But I feel really good riding. I've got a good handle on Hong Kong racing now. You know, I felt like last year was always going to be a building year for me. It was my first full year here in Hong Kong, and as you alluded to, after an injury in late October last year, then I probably came back. I was, probably trying a bit too hard to make things happen, and it came to the stewards' wrath a few times, and that was my own fault. So that's another thing that I've been mindful of this year, to be more consistent in my riding and make less of those errors. And so far I've managed to do that. So if we can just continue to get a consistent flow of winners and race meetings, and iron those errors out, which I did last year. That's sort of what my focus is this year.
Hey, one thing just before we have a chat about Romantic Warrior, which I know you've trialled. One encouraging point, Hugh, you get a lovely bit of support from just about every stable, I think. So I think that's a real positive for you. You seem like you're building good relationships. Like even a lot of the leading jockeys over time, they've probably had, their main supporters. And I know you've had a lot of success with Casper, but you're still getting a good spread of support from everybody.
No, I am. And, I try and fit everyone in too. I mean, it's like I said, it's been a real learning curve for me sort of last season, how to manage the system here in Hong Kong. And that's one of the good things about the place. It is very systematic, but just like everywhere else, you can only ride one horse in each race. So it's a real balancing act to keep everyone happy, but by the same token, choose the best horses I can, because results are paramount. And if you're doing well, people want to support you. And one of the good things about Hong Kong since I arrived, I have had a continued support base from a wide range of trainers, and the success has continued to flow, continuously throughout my time here. So I'm working hard to keep that happening, but I'm enjoying my riding, and that's what's happened. Since coming to Hong Kong, it's really reinvigorated my passion for the industry, and my not that I'd had enough, but I think the change has been a real asset to my career, and I'm really enjoying the job and enjoying the process and enjoying the system, and I think that's showing in the results.
That's fantastic, mate. Yeah. You've been on board trialling two of the most interesting horses, Romantic Warriors 1 and HUTCHI'S. How do they both feel? We'll start with Romantic Warrior.
He feels great. So I've sat on him in 2 trials now, and both trials have been outstanding. His fitness levels are improving. I've not ridden him any gallops in between, so just the two pieces of work with him. But I would expect him to start off in his season the way he left last season.
And HUTCHI'S on the dirt the other day looked a bit of a messy track, but how did he feel?
Here's Helios. Yes, he feels great. He's had another trial since this. I missed him because he tried when I was on the sidelines with my ear infection, but he looks great and feels great. He won't have my weight when he starts off, so I won't be able to ride him first up, but I'd expect him to come back bigger and better than last year for sure.
Just as an aside, and before we get into some of your rides on the weekend, Hughie, Cox Plate prognosis has that romantic warrior form, and you've won 4 of them aboard Winx, of course. What was your? I know you would have had a look at the race this far out, and we still aren't confirmed with all the runners, but what was your take this year, and how do you think prognosis would go?
Very well, but it looks a very open race to me, and I think with Pride of Jenny sort of headlining the act there, it's going to be that's going to ensure a very testing race. I mean, it always is a testing race, but I thought last year's edition, there wasn't as much pressure as maybe anticipated in the early and middle stages of the race, and it sort of set up for those on-pace horses. But with Pride of Jenny, with her racing pattern, it's going to really set up for an amazing edition of the WS Cox Plate. So I don't have a ride at this stage, but anyone that's watching, I'm available.
There you go.
I'm A for available, and he's only won a lazy 4 of them, so he'd be a good addition. Hey, Golden Boy, take him through to Huey's rides.
Race 1, Santana needed the run the other day. Gate 1, your box seat, of course. Got a chance. Got to improve, though. He was disappointing last start, but can improve.
Yes, but it's a 3-year-old race. So it's a restricted race, this one.
Yes.
So that might... barrier 1. I think he will improve. Frankie's horses, a little bit of a slow start to the season for Frankie, but his horses, I can see them starting to hit their straps, and he's had a couple of winners in the last couple of meetings, so I'll be hitting the stable at the right time.
Hey, one horse that you won on the other day, Family Jewel, it was a big win, Hugh. What sort of feel did he give you?
A good feel. I think he'll appreciate a step up in distance in time. He was going to run over 1800 recently, but it didn't. Casper decided just to wait a little bit longer, so 1600 metres again. But I think he's a horse that you'll see him. He'll be able to win races when he goes up to Class 3 as well. So one to follow.
Joyful Life, Gate 13, pace in the race. He'll be forward. He's got a chance.
Yeah, he does. He's racing consistently. I've actually got a really decent book of rides this weekend. The race that interests me is the Class 2 event. I think there's a bit of depth to that. A Talibot Duel, probably better over a little bit further. He might have his work cut out over 1200 at this. He does, but it's a good race. There's some interesting horses, up-and-comers in the race, so it's going to...
He won first up last year over 14, and it was a good winning.
Yeah, it was, and I'd prefer it 14 again, but it's only 12. So, but barrier, an inside draw might help me hold a spot. But he's a horse that likes to be ridden for a last, held up and come late at them anyway. So
there's a lot of pace in the race. They're going to go fast.
Well, they'll go quick, but at least from an inside draw, I'm not going to have to sort of take him out the back. I can just be where I land, and if I can be in front of 4 or 5 horses, if he's comfortable doing that, it's less traffic to navigate at the business end.
And the Chartine Trophy here, you ride Red Lion, and look, he's an interesting one. He's probably just that cog below a few. We're looking at a replay of last year where the rail was hot and on speed was good, and Zach got a soft lead, but in slightly different conditions potentially on the weekend. But on his better form, he wouldn't be the worst, and the pace might suit him here.
Well, I think he's with Voyage Bubble being in the race. I think it's a big asset for this horse. It gets him in with a nice weight of 126. I'd expect him to improve significantly from a fitness point of view after this run, but I wouldn't be at all surprised to see him win. I really wouldn't. He continued to climb the ratings last season, and I can see him improving again this year. I mean, he's not going to beat a horse like Romani at Warrior or even Voyage Bubble at his best, but I think he's a very consistent and honest horse, and you can rely on him to bring his best foot forward every time he steps out, and they're the horses you like to be dealing with.
Yeah, he's a bit underrated. A horse I like on the day, and
I think he is.
He'll probably need his bit of luck, but it was a good run for Hazy. We've got to mention Hazy. He's flying this season. You're right, Stella Swift.
He's
This was a really good run from this horse.
Yeah, it was. And again, he does carry the top weight, but I think he's got his foot on the till. This was a pretty good form race too, in my opinion. So the replay we just watched. So yeah, look, I've got another. Hazy's been a good supporter, as plenty of the trainers since I got here. So yeah, look, Stella Swift looks well placed on the weekend.
He'd be keeping it all, a lid on it all.
Oh, yeah.
Hazy, he'd be just sort of playing it all down.
He's walking around the place like a Bantam rooster.
He'd be loving it.
And it's good. It's good to see the stable going well.
Yeah.
It is fantastic. Talking about that, you're probably getting a little close to Zach. Is he still talking to you?
Well, he had 3 winners on the weekend, so that opened up the communication line for the foreseeable future. But, see how long that lasts.
Quickly, Hugh, you are in rare air. You're in the 100 club. George Moore, yourself, Jimmy Cassidy, of course, and Damien Oliver. Fair chance that on the weekend James McDonald might join you. A thought on J-Mac?
Many years ago, I was riding in Auckland for, I think the memory might have been the Karaka Millions, and I said to James, I said, you should think about a move to Sydney. And he said, oh, why would I do that? I said, well, I think there's just great opportunity for you in time if you came. And about 6 or 12 months later, he did come over, and John O'Shea supported that move. And it was about the time I was probably starting to get a roll on with Chris Waller. But about 10 or 12 years later, I did start to wonder whether it was a good move or a good business plan, telling James that he should move to Australia. But no, we're very close. We're good friends, and I've watched him grow as a jockey and as a person, and it's been great to see him develop into one of the world's best jockeys. And I love riding against him, as I love riding against all the best jockeys. And yeah, he's really developed over the last 10 years, but certainly the last 5 years, he's taken it to the next level. And through the support of that man, Chris Waller, who you mentioned before, you talk so glowingly about him, but Chris Waller supported me through the best years of for me in the saddle, and he's doing the same with James McDonald. So it's a credit to him, and he's worked hard to be where he's at, and he deserves all the success that he gets.
Beautiful words, mate. Always an absolute pleasure to catch up with you. We're barracking hard for your good form to continue. Look forward to chatting again soon.
No, you're welcome. It's nice to be on the show again, and look forward to the next episode.
Good on you, buddy. What a star he is, the one and only Hugh Bowman, eh?
He's riding in great form again. I mean, Hugh, it was really interesting listening to Hugh there about, how, I think Hong Kong suits him so well with his weight in terms of the transition, and he's enjoying it and riding brilliantly, isn't he? Oh,
what a ripper he is, and good fun as always. Let's find a future winner with Form Files. Let's find some future winners with the Form Files, and we'll start with the top-rated performance of the week.
Yeah, this was a little surprising, but I suppose not in retrospect when you look at margins. And Sword Point was a horse that hadn't had a lot of exposed form on the surface. They ran a steady first half mile here, but he's run an 85.2 on my rating scale, and he was pretty dominant. Shane, this was an awesome performance from Sword Point. He might be one to keep following on that surface.
He was awesome. But remember, a year ago, we had him one of the best horses or most promising in Hong Kong, and he didn't measure up at all. He went backwards as the season got longer, but he really produced it first up in that race, and he looks as though he's going to go back to what we thought he might.
And no surprise with Super Unicorn. Gee, it was a nice effort from him. And this is a lower class horse, so if he can run that sort of mark on my ratings, he will be going up in grade and proving pretty hard to beat. And, you don't have to be a genius to work that out. Look at the margin he put up, and that was a very impressive win.
It's golden 60 for Hong Kong. That's not a whip, that's a wand.
You know, I'm a sucker for a sectional star. I tumble into them willy-nilly. Have
Don't
you got
we
a
all?
sectional star?
We do, actually. It was it was a good performance from a sectional point of view. And this was from Markwin. Gee, Shane, this has made the SID file. Everyone saw it on the day. Settled back, slow run race, ran into a lot of dead ends. He's still run home incredibly.
21.87.
21.8. I mean, it's a bit of a reflection of how slow they went, but I mean, he still should have won. If he gets a clean run through late, he nearly wins.
I reckon he gave this a really good ride. In the trials, he's let it run, and it hasn't finished the trials off as well as this. He went back from a gate, saved ground, waited. He got held up a bit, but he let it get home. He gave it every possible chance to hit the line, and it did. And in its trials, it wasn't going like that when it was ridden forward. It's a real nice horse. It's a horse to follow. I'm not disagreeing with you.
And Shane, just on that note, with a horse like that, you'd ride him the same way next up, because sometimes they draw a barrier and they want to have him close. So listening to the point you're making, you'd ride him exactly the same way.
Yeah.
There's that horse that, Ben Thompson rides. Remember that one? It won the last season, the last meeting.
Ballistic Win?
Ballistic Win. Had 2 starts end of last season, run second and won, and it was really impressive, remember?
Yeah.
And you named it a best bet this season at the first meeting. This season it's had 2 starts. He's jumped out. It's been running 4th. And what's happened?
Yeah, no hasn't finished off.
It hasn't finished the race off. Why aren't they riding that horse back when it's better off ridden back? There's a classic example. I see it all the time, but that horse I'm not so sure. Maybe he can handle being ridden forward. But in the trials, he definitely went better ridden back than he was in the trials.
Who jumps into the sweet in defeat file?
Yeah, we've got a few. Obviously, we had Markwin, Davano. Davano was good. It weren't any excuses. He had a beautiful run in it, but I think he just may have needed it, and he's a very consistent horse. He'll bounce back to winning ways. I'm sure Zach will stick with him. The other horse, this horse is ready to win, Parents Love. He was leaders back the start prior to Wednesday. He was 3 wide, no cover, facing the breeze. But if he remains in that bottom grade, he'll be winning. And I think Heyday, Matthew Poon on board there, just needed the run. So we've got a few there. I think stick with those, and the SIDs have been going all right lately.
Okay, yeah. Race number 1 on Sunday. This whole section's about trying to find future winners. Race number 1, Zach Burton and David Hayes combined with a horse called Circuit Jolly. I think you've put the G1 Goldmine lens over it.
We love the Group 1 Goldmine website and what they provide, and this horse is definitely one to keep an eye on. Pedigree-wise, when you see that green, I mean, gold is perfect, but green is still batting well above the average, and there are the figures on the pedigree cross with Circuit Jolly, who I thought really went well in his recent trial as well. He was given pretty quiet time from Zach at the Valley. It's not a strong race. There's a couple in there. I'm not saying he'll be a play per se, but he's certainly one that'll be attracting some market attention. And if you like your pedigrees and what they potentially could show, this is a horse that could easily be winning his way out of that grade.
Time for the jockeys to sit up and take notice here. Idle time. So, Golden Boy, you've put the eye over the jockeys' rides. Who caught your eye from a positive point of view? This
was a very good ride. Now, there's a couple of reasons it won.
Andrea Azzeni.
Gate 2. Andrea Azzeni, of course. Now, I know it drew gate 2 and was always going to get a good run, but he made 2 decisions in the race that won the race, and I'm going to explain why. Now, on the A track, it's very hard to get runs. They don't fan as much. On the B, C, it's easy. But on the A, they come back, they go off and come straight back in, so you don't get a run. Now, he's going to follow the leader, who you would think would be Satirical Fan. When he eases up to Silver King, and both those horses can't win now, he elects, and they're pulling up here, he elects to come off and push Derek out of the way and follow a horse who won last start. So that's the first move, right? By doing that, that gives him the chance of following a good horse, whereas he would have been 3 back the fence following 2 no-hopers from there. So it was very good there, Clint, what he did.
Yeah, no, it was a good move. He's in the 1-1 now, and he's also kept a horse, I think it was Romantic Loud, 3 wide, no cover. He just needs a bit of luck, Shane, and...
Now, the next thing up here, if you watch, he can push out, and most jockeys would be pushing out here to get out. But he elected to stay in and cut the corner a bit. Now, he could have got going. Now, if he pushes out there, that horse does not win. right? There's no way it wins. He saves a bit of ground, but he actually saves energy. And you watch here, he's strong on him, and he only gets up. So why I felt that was the best ride, I know he was favourite. He did two things in the race that allowed that horse to win, whereas if he hadn't have done it, there's no way that horse would have won.
Yeah, well, it comes down to millimetres, or in his case, centimetres. So that was a beautiful explanation of a gun ride. You've been chatting a lot in recent weeks about pace and understanding pace in a race. I believe you got another piece on that.
This is the first race. It was just run. If you have a look at the sectionals, they've run 29.5. This is the first ride. Matthew's riding actually pretty well, but
Matthew
he went too slow here. Matthew Poon, he went too slow on the leader. You can't go this slow. When you go this slow on a leader, it actually doesn't help the leader, because then you've got to quicken up at the 800, and horses can't do it. It's easy coming from back when you're in stride, but when you're in front and you quicken, you can't do it. It's impossible. So he's run a 29.59 for the first bit, whereas the standard's 27.95. Well, that's a good, second? That's about, 10 lengths?
Yeah. So they've basically, Shane, gone 20 lengths slow for the first half mile. I mean, don't riders realise they're going that slow?
Well, we did, and that's why he took off, which was the right thing to do. But on a leader, you should be going a bit quicker, and it keeps your horse in stride. Now, when it was my time, Felix Kutzi was always a good leader, jockey who led. He never used to go slow, but didn't go fast. It was just even. And now you watch the horse on the fence here with Matthew. He can't get going. He's flat. And he probably should have nearly won the race, He didn't go bad. If you just let him run a little bit, now it's over for him. You just can't do that. You've got to let him run a little bit better. And, of course, the kid on the second horse gave his a good ride, Dragon Delight Long. And with no weight on his back, he just got the ideal run. He was on pace, and he just outdone Huey. But you've got to let them just go not too far. It's hard, I know. You think you're doing the right thing, but it's actually not when you're going that slow.
Not when they go too slow. The best front-running rider, I think, by a margin in Hong Kong, Zach Purton. He's a fantastic, because he goes quick enough, Shane, where he's just on the other side of those standard sectionals. He'll go forward, a bit like when he won on Beauty Eternal on the feature last year. Like, he'll go quick enough that they won't take off, but slow enough that he's still in control and can sprint.
Well, that's exactly what I said about in my time, Felix Kutzi, because he rode for Tony and Tony loved his horses leading. Felix would go to the front. And he wouldn't go slow, but he wouldn't go fast. It was just an even, like Zach does. And Zach doesn't lead often, but when he does, it should be noticeable, because his horses normally keep running, But you can't go that slow, because you're actually not giving your horse the right chance to win the race if you're on the leader. You've got to go a bit quicker.
They'd win a few down here, Rich. I'll give you the tip with how slow they go in some of the races here.
Well, we're seeing that in Australia at the moment, Shane. A guy called Declan Bates, low profile. But he has the courage to get going on Pride of Jenny at a speed where others would think it's going too fast. He understands the animal, and he's got the courage to do it.
Well, what I don't understand with that, I noticed Craig the other day, and I know he's saying he's giving his horse the other chance. Now, I can understand 3 starts ago in the Queen Elizabeth, when the other horse got away by 20 lengths. But he did it again the other day. You can't let her get that far in front. Once is forgettable, but twice to me is not. You got to chase her no matter what, because if you don't chase her, you can't win the race. You can't let her get that far in front. But she's like a Vol Rogue, who if you remember him, Richo. Cyril Small, he used to get in front and roll along, and it was incredible to watch. And it'd get to the 200, and you'd say, "Are you going to get him?" "Yes, you're going to get him." And then it would always be, "No, we're not."
No. I love that education in regards to pace. Who got the votes this week?
There was a few. I thought Huey's riding extremely well, and so is Zach. They deserve 2 each, of course. On Zach rode 5 winners. He's going great. He's probably going to break the record this year, I think. Derek Leong rode a double, did nothing wrong. Jerry, of course. Ben Thompson gave his a good ride, and Karras rode 2 winners and did nothing wrong on them. So they're all going good. The boys are riding pretty well.
Okay, from a leaderboard point of view, we wait with great interest to see the first negative vote for the season, Hutch, and at the moment, we don't see a negative vote.
Look, he started the new season in a good mood.
He is a new man.
It's like he's given them all a bit of a mulligan.
No, you know what's happened?
What's happened?
I think he's in love.
Oh, please.
Many would say he is.
Yes.
We know who with.
Let's have a look at that leaderboard again. Golden Boy.
Oh, they're all going good, the boys. Huey and Zach are going to draw away because they ride the most winners and they're on the favourites, and they've been given them, both of them have been given them excellent rides this season.
Okay, so Huey and Zach level on 10. A quick break. We'll come back and chat all things global racing next. Global racing, well, arguably the biggest race of the year is the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe, and once again on a rain-affected surface, and we saw Blue Stocking win, and wonderful the stories around Rossa Ryan. We spoke in the lead-up the week before about Los Angeles, ran really well for Coolmore down at the bottom, but this was some win by Blue Stocking.
Yeah, it was great story. They paid, I should say, the late supplementary fee as well, which I think's about 100 and something thousand, maybe euros. So it was a hefty price tag, Shane, for them to, have a crack at the Arc, and came off.
I always stay up and watch the race. It's one of my favourite races to watch. That, the Kentucky Derby, and of course the English Derby. They're all great races. But it's funny how it always seems to be wet, Richo, every year.
Always got to take a wet tracker. I mean, from an Australian point of view, the wet tracker that OTI had ran really well. I mean, it was well beaten, but fourth.
I think it got knocked down at the start.
Yeah, so it ran well, but you've got to take those types of horses. Those can really handle the testing ground. I mean, so you think ran in that race, and just it was too wet for him.
Our best wet tracker in recent. On another note, and this is just quickly, Shane. If you had Winks, would you have gone over for an Arc and trot her over a mile and a half? Because, I mean, I've never seen a better wet tracker than her.
Oh, wow.
She was fast on good ground, of course. But
And Mackay was a good wet tracker too.
Yeah, I mean, how do you reckon she would have gone in an Arc?
Well, she created so much history in Australia, winning 4 Cox Plates, which is just unbelievable.
Yep.
So if she had gone for an Arc, she couldn't have done that.
Yeah.
So it's a tough one. And, of course, the money in Australia is amazing. So I've got no qualms her staying in Australia racing and not going overseas, because it just doesn't suit that time of year.
Yeah, just how they'd measure up. Well, we would have loved to have seen it.
It's just,
we saw it with Black Caviar, and that's why, I mean, she was perfect, 25 from 25, and she's got that elevation because she was the perfect
different,
one.
Richo. Totally different.
I know, totally different.
Our sprinters are better.
No doubt.
No doubt about that. Their stayers are better than ours.
As we're about to find out when we get to the Cups Carnival. We won't see any more racing, hard to believe, in Singapore. For the very last time they raced, and we had the Smart Star win the Singapore Gold Cup.
Rich, so you had a chat we both did, with Joe Moreira last Friday on the coverage at the Valley, and I think what he said was really... You asked him the question, what about Singapore closing? And Shane, I don't know if you saw the coverage, but Joe basically said it was sad, and it really is.
Oh. It is. But it's a wake-up call to other clubs around the world.
Other jurisdictions, yeah.
Yes, 100%, I felt Singapore died when they moved, and I was riding there going backwards and forwards, and I've won a Singapore Derby and all that. To me, it died when it moved to Kranji, out of Bukit going out town. It just died. It wasn't the same. But what about that race, the jockey afterwards, the young South African, wasn't he so excited? I loved those interviews.
Muzieni.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so sad. We think of it, what we think at the moment. We think of all the trainers and jockeys that have made their living there, where they go next. And hopefully they all find a home. We'll see some in Australia, some will go to other jurisdictions as well. So
It is a big point, though. I mean, racing, we've got to preserve the sport that we love, and obviously thriving in Japan and Hong Kong. Yeah. And of course, which totaliser systems, that's another matter. But, we do need to protect what we've got.
Yeah, that's right.
Richo, the horses have to pack up. The stable hands have to pack up. Everyone's got to pack up. It's just not jockeys and trainers.
That's
Actually,
right.
Jockeys are easy. We can just go anywhere, more or less, you know. But the others, they can't. Trainers, it's hard. Stable hands, it's hard. And it's not easy to move horses all the time either.
Hey, from a Whirlpool point of view, next Saturday is going to be absolutely epic, because the celebration of Melbourne and Sydney together. where you've got this unbelievable contrast with the King Charles III Stakes, which is a mile, but then you've got the Everest. So you've got all the brashness of this new race up in Sydney, with Sweet Caroline being sung along and $20 million up for grabs in the Group 1 Everest. And then half an hour before or half an hour later will be that classic race, the Caulfield Cup, the richest handicap over 2,400 metres in the world and 150 years of history and tradition. What a ripper.
That might be the best race day in the world.
It is.
I mean,
as a collective,
when you put them all
yeah.
together, I mean, you got Champions Day and all those
Yeah.
races in Melbourne and Sydney. That's an amazing day. So yeah, there'll be, and Whirlpool, like you said. So
Bring it on.
Richo, what are they doing with Pride of Jenny? I read somewhere that they said, even going to Sydney isn't out of the question before the Cox Plate.
She will run in the King Charles III Stakes there with a chance that the King is there attending on course at Randwick. Pride of Jenny might be tackling Fangirl and the rest in the King Charles 1,600 metres and then come back to Melbourne to run in the Cox Plate. That's one of the possibilities. If she doesn't do that, there's not really a race in Melbourne. She would go a month between runs before from the Fee and into the Cox Plate. Doesn't seem right.
No.
I think she'll be going to Sydney.
Yeah, she'll be going to Sydney.
Make sure you check it all out when you bet into the World Pool. Now, the Hong Kong jockeys, we've been talking about this for the last 4 weeks. A lot of Hong Kong jockeys have put their hand up and said, I'm available for the Caulfield Cup and also for other races like the Everest for Brenton Avdulla. He's committed to Stormboy if Coolmore lock in Stormboy over Switzerland. More to play out on Saturday, but Zach Purton rides the Metrop winner, who was very impressive in Land Legend. Ben Thompson rides an international, not guaranteed of a start for Kieran Maher. Ran fifth in an Epsom Derby. If it gets a start, it'll be hard.
Yeah, I think needs about 5 or 6 places
right
to
on
move
the
up,
edge.
but it's right on the precipice, isn't
Yeah.
it? And then Andreasen, he won the Sydney Cup. He's got a great ride there on Zardozi. She was fantastic the other day.
In the Metropolitan, narrowly beaten by Land Legend. And then Karis Teaton rides Coco's Son, the Derby winner, and she runs on Saturday in the Might and Power Stakes and then backs up. That was always the plan for her. So that's interesting to see them all in action.
Yeah, and we'll be in touch with a couple of those riders, and hopefully we can get them along here and have a chat to them.
We can get them all in here. We've got enough room.
We've got to get Shane down here as well.
Well, we can't afford Shane, but we could get the others in here. He'll no doubt light up.
I'm not that expensive.
Damn straight you are. He'll be lighting up the social stable. That's where we go now. Let's delve into the social stable, and the social media world's been lighting up, and the first issue has been about Ivy Lamb. So our hearts go out to Ivy and her family. She had a fall. She was sitting basically in the box seat behind the leader, and unfortunately her horse had a heart attack and collapsed on her and collapsed on Ivy. The good news is I was over in South Australia a couple of nights ago, and everyone in South Australian racing really rallied around her. Amy Chan from the Jockey Club flew out with Ivy's mum. And the good news is that she is steadily improving. So no permanent damage. She's had some, she's certainly bruised both the, her head injuries and also in her back. But the great news is that everyone was saying that, we thought the worst, and now we are really pleasantly surprised in the recovery.
Yeah, no, very, very thankful to hear that news, and we'll keep you updated when we find out any more. But it's sounding positive, which is great news. Yeah,
which is fantastic for Ivy. So get well soon. Lucky Swain-S, some news on Lucky Swain-S, or confirmation what we thought.
Well, the South China Morning Post put this out recently, which, Shane, I suppose we all suspected, but it's a shame he won't be there to defend his crown. But they've got to give him time to. Get well and all the rest of it, but opens the door for another. But, we'll just have to wait a little bit longer through the season to see him.
Zach probably goes on to the favourite and the winner now.
Ka Ying Rising?
Yes, at this stage.
Yep, it looks that way. But, let's hope, we'll see him later. I mean, their clash later in the season will be great. And probably the time off. He had an arduous campaign early in his career. He didn't miss too many races. No. So a little bit of a let-up mightn't be the worst thing for him.
Yeah, rehab most important for him to make sure that... He's A-OK, so we'll keep monitoring his process as well. Yes.
Richo, on another subject, does your wife actually know what you look like now?
What are you talking about, Two Dogs?
Well, every time I put the TV on or paper, you're never in Melbourne. You're always away. Where have you been this week? You seem to be everywhere bar Melbourne.
But I was lucky enough to be up in Canberra. Now, this was a really important night for world racing, but Australian racing in particular, because the Australian Racing Group, and that's run by Racing Australia, teamed up with Racing Victoria, Racing Queensland, Racing New South Wales, and brought the absolute heavyweights to Parliament House, Golden Boy, to be there with a whole lot of parliamentarians who love racing, to try to educate the other parliamentarians who maybe don't like racing, to say, this industry is really, really important. You know what? It generates $13.4 billion in economic impact, if you don't mind. $1 billion. So just be careful what you want, any of the parliamentarians.
Richo, the politician, do you like it? So you know what he said when he came back? Yeah, I've kept us going.
Yeah.
I've kept us going.
I saved racing.
Clint, I like the way they said they brought all the heavyweights. He was the big
yeah, including me.
Well, someone had to host it. That was all I was doing. I was just getting out of all the heavyweights' way.
Not only that, Shane, he was in South Australia. He was. He's been everywhere. Like, I don't know, he finds the hours in a day.
Hey, more importantly, without being silly, Chris Waller. Now, Shane, you talk about responsibility to your sport. So Chris Waller flies into Adelaide for a 3-hour quick trip to accept his Group 1 winning trainer trophy because he thinks it's important to represent the sport at its best. He then flies back that night to Adelaide, works the next morning, and then jumps in a car, drives to Canberra because he wants to meet the politicians and represent racing to make sure that the industry stays on. He doesn't need to do it. He's not getting paid to do it. But he's a star, mate.
Yeah, no, well done to Chris. And he could have had Shane with him. Get Shane down there. Shane could have...
We can't afford Shane!
Unfortunately, people don't like to listen to me because I tell the truth.
So what are you saying? Is that why I was there?
You know what racing's like? They like blokes that are just yes men.
Well said. No, but that is good from Chris, isn't it?
That's good from him.
We need his voice there. And anyway, it sounds like the meeting went well. And you've got the frequent flyers happening too, just
That's
quietly.
right. Quote, unquote, I saved racing. Best bets coming up. Pens poised, best bets time. Hutchbuster, lead us away.
Yeah, I like the meeting on the weekend, and particularly that second half of the card is really strong. But I think, you know, Lucy in the Sky is going to take a lot of beating, Richo. It's not a filly for those in Australia. It's a gelding, a son of No Nay Never, and I think he'll be tough to beat. And I'm going to have some Quinella Speed Dragon. I think Young Achiever back on a good track can run well, and outside of that was an eye-catching run from First Love. So hopefully there'll be a little bit of value in the Quinella, and hopefully we'll get around that $3 mark with him. I like Galaxy Patch. I'm just hoping that Vincent can just pop him out, put him on the back of the speed. Like I said, I think you'll see Zach jump, go to the front on Beauty Eternal. Hopefully Vincent will stalk him all the way, but that will be a ripper race. And Shane, it'll be a race that we'll be watching with an interest, looking forward to the international races in December.
Well, that's what they're in for, isn't it? To go for the international. So we're going to get a good guide. Richo, I come to a brick wall last week. My one only ran third.
Well,
what am I doing this week?
Well, you were entitled to have one miss. Now, we know you are the early card specialist. Please find one early.
Well, this couldn't get beat if Rewarding Twinkle wasn't in the race, but it might drive it mad. Awesome Treasure, it should have won last start for sure. It's got gate 10. The 10 pounds off is just enormous. It's going to jump. It's going to go forward. It could lead. It all depends on number 10 in the race, Rewarding Twinkle, a first starter, probably one of the fastest horses in Hong Kong, over about 200 metres. It can miss the start. It's having its first start, but when it gets going, it could truck. So I don't want it to take it on. So hopefully she'll come back off it or lead her on her own, and it's going to be hard to beat. Awesome Treasure. And race 3, these two stand out, the 1 and the 2 for a Quinella. Only reason I did that is Clint puts up Quinellas every week, so I thought, let's throw one in.
Oh,
he loves a Quinella, Shane.
Insured an awesome fluke. So Zach and Andre are at Zenny there to dominate. And the beauty is it's in race number 3. He is the early specialist.
He's a specialist all round.
That's true.
Don't worry about that.
Golden Boy, always an absolute pleasure. Great hanging out with you, heavyweights.
Mate, I might be a specialist, but you're very well connected. All those photos, Parliament House now. Next you'll be in America, Democrats or Republicans. This could be the last we see of you, Richo.
I won't forget you, mate. It's worth noting that Donald Trump had Hulk Hogan represent him, so I've got you, my friend.
Yeah, there you go.
Same.
What could go wrong?
Good luck.
Good luck, mate, for the big weekend.
Thank you.
It's going to be a beauty. Thanks for watching our show.